Hey everyone, Lou Clark here, and today I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this conversation today with one of my dear friends, Elaine Tan Comeau, founder and owner of Easy Daisies, as well as massive entrepreneur. She's an author, she's a business coach, and she got this thing called a deal on Dragon's Den. And if you are in the States, that's the equivalent to Shark Tank. This woman is epic. She is big time. But before we get into the interview, I want to let you know that all of Elaine's links where you can learn more about her, connect with her, get her book, get her product are all below in the description, as well as some great free resources from myself as well. So as we jump into the conversation with Elaine, I want you to stay till the end because the power that Elaine delivers in her message to you at the end of this video is something you don't want to miss. You'll see as we go through, I'm wiping away my tears. She's just so powerful. And I know that she's going to touch your heart and your life. And she's going to answer some really good questions for you. So let's get started. Elaine, I am so excited you are here. For those who don't know, and you'll see the link below eventually, soon, hopefully, but Elaine and I just did a podcast for her podcast, and I was like, okay, well, now we have to do my YouTube channel. So I am so excited, Elaine, that you are here. Welcome to my YouTube channel in conversation with Elaine Tan Comeau today. Elaine, hello. You're here.
Well, hello, Lou. I'm so excited and honored to be here. And hello, everybody. And I just say kudos to you. You have just like grown and changed in leaps and bounds. And I know that you've probably already shared your story, but I'm honored to be here, Lou. Thank you.
And I'm so excited that you're sharing your story. So, Elaine, this is what I don't get. And this is what I need you to like explain. And I've known you for, oh my God, how many years now? 6, maybe 7?
Oh gosh, no, 2014.
Okay, so we're 7 years.
Okay,
I love
sure.
it. We'll go 7. But the one thing, and I've heard your story so many times, but seriously, teacher who created a product for her classroom ends up on Dragon's Den and gets a deal with Mr. Wonderful and Jim from Boston Pizza. There is a story there, and I really need to hear it because it doesn't make sense, right? So
Right?
share your story with me and with the people watching. Tell me.
Well, thank you for asking. It still amazes me too, I will say. But I hope that, I love what you're doing, Lou, that you provide this YouTube channel so
Mhm.
that people can learn from each other and grow together and laugh and cry and all the rest. But it's so that we understand that if we can do it, you can too. And the thing is, it's not like, what did you say once? I think you said it once, that it's not like an overnight success. It's like a 10-year overnight success, right?
Yeah.
And but it is a learning as we go. And I love learning. And even as a school teacher, when I was a school teacher, I wanted to make that contagious with my class, like that you should be learning every day and have that growth mindset of embracing challenges and celebrating mistakes. And I've done a lot of mistakes and expensive ones too along the way. But I was a school teacher and I fall in love with my class every year. I mostly had grade 2, grade 3 classes, and I coached grade 7 boys basketball for like 5 years. And when I first started,
I didn't
I
I didn't know you did that. Oh my
I
God.
did. Well, you're just gonna have to read my book one day.
We'll read your book. Your
Somewhere is my
picture.
book.
You have a book? Show us. Show us your book.
Show us your book.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna go. I'll put a book. I'll put a link to your book because you can get it on Amazon, right? Look at
Yes.
that. Sell your passion. Okay. I
Feel your
told
passion.
we're gonna pick that
Yeah.
up on Amazon. So I'll put a link down.
Okay. And your son would laugh at me because I actually have an entire chapter talking about being a triple threat. I was
Ooh.
like, what? Yes, and it's probably the most favorite and popular chapter in the book about how to be a triple threat, but I'm going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
So I was a school teacher, and I I really loved it and I kind of miss it. But every year I fall in love with my kids, and my grade 2 class sang at our wedding, and now they're all old and they find me on Twitter. It's all good. But for years and years, I had parents ask me to create a daily visual schedule and, for their child at home, similar to something I had in the front of my classroom. And so, of course, I would, and I hand drew every single illustration to help their child get from coming home into their soccer clothes, and then coming home and changing and getting homework done, and then dinner, and so on. So very specific ones, but studies will show that kids as young as preschool age benefit from visual schedules because they just cooperate better. There's less anxiety because they can see and predict what's happening next, less nagging on parents' parts, and it just helps kids become more independent and cooperative and change from event to event smoother.
This is
And so I made these for years and years for free because I just want to help my kids. And then I thought one day, okay, I've been making these for free for years, and there's definitely a market for it. So maybe there's a product here. And so I did the research and discovered there wasn't a product out there that was a daily visual schedule. And so I saved up by tutoring and selling crafts, that first $1,400 I needed. And then I launched it 2 days after our third baby was born because she came early. And so I was doing this off our kitchen table. Literally, I'd order like 500,000 magnets that would come shipped to our house, and I'd order boxes from one company, and then my husband and I would print the inserts, and I would sit and fold and insert, sit and fold and insert. And I knew exactly when 18-wheeler trucks would show up at our house because they would be angry because we live in a townhouse complex and not the place to pull in when you have an 18-wheeler truck. So I would bake like cookies and cupcakes and everything, and I'd like hand them over with like dad's soda, just and they always left happy. They came swearing, but they would leave happy. And even our neighbors, I would pre-warn them that this truck was coming. And my neighbor, who like shared an adjoining wall in our townhouse, he'd joke with me and say, "Oh yeah, Elaine, don't worry, we know when your magnets come because all our pots and pans go cling and stick onto the wall between it."
that's awesome.
I'm like, "Okay, well, here's some muffins and cupcakes for you too." And so I fully get it. I fully get it. If your listeners or viewers right now are like, yeah, that is me. I'm starting out of our house. I fully get it. And having and Sarah and Lou, see, I was gonna call you Sarah.
Oh, good.
And Lou, I know that you understand what it's like to work from home. And I've had the conference calls standing in the pantry, holding the door shut to get like quiet when there's 3 kids under 5 banging on the other side, right? So
Sticking their fingers under the door.
yes, and you crack it open, throw out some Rice Krispie squares, buy yourself 3 more minutes, right? Fully get it. And so we wanted to, well, it was amazing. Like, I don't know how, but it was kind of a blessing that people found us. Like, my husband created a website for me called Easy Daisies. It's called Easy Daisies. It was a daily visual schedule to help kids have easier days. That's how it got its name, Easy Daisies.
I see in the background too. In your
Yes.
bookshelf. It's right other side. Here it is.
Yes. Yes. And like every part of it is done with a study. Like the length of the board is because so many studies will show that you shouldn't be listing more than 5 to 7 tasks, even for adults. We don't remember. It's very overwhelming and I have parents write to me saying, "I can't list the 28 things my 6-year-old has to do on your board." Well, you don't want to list 28 things for anyone to do. And so even the blue that we use for our magnets is the clinically proven color to be most soothing for anxiety. So there's lots of studies behind every aspect of this board, even that transition from your child picking up from to do and moving it to done. That kinesthetic move is like getting a pat in the back, how we as adults feel when we cross off a to-do list. So teaching intrinsic reward instead of rewarding with money or candy or stickers. So it's just teaching intrinsic reward. So they understand that when they study for a test, they'll do well. When you wake up and go to work, you'll get paid. So it's just teaching that life skill. And so when we first started, all of a sudden, for some reason, it was a blessing that different media found us. And there was a review that I don't even know how they reviewed it because I didn't send out my product. And this raving review caused stores to call us. And then it became the number one back to school must have in Parents Magazine.
Wow.
And that was a blessing. And we just won an award this week.
Okay, before we go into the award, hold on, let's go back for a second. When the review came out and then you went into Parents Canada, were you still making these from home, or did you eventually or were you like, we have a manufacturer now? Like, where were you in the position when this review came out?
They were coming off my kitchen table. Yeah, it was insane. It was crazy. And so I did start cold calling as well, and just like calling local stores, and I even started with consignment, saying, no risk to you. I'd be honored if you could carry this product. And so we went from 2 stores to 26 stores to 60 stores to at one point 1,500 stores off our kitchen table. And my husband and I thought, okay, there's got to be an easier way to do this in cold calling stores. There must be a place they all come to.
Yeah.
And, when you're an entrepreneur, you are resourceful, right? And you will find out information. And I discovered there's this toy fair that wholesalers sell at, and retailers go to. And it was out in Toronto. And that was our very first toy show. And I thought, well, I can't afford this. How am I going to do this? Like, we have to fly there, we have to stay somewhere, and then I have to pay for a table or a booth. And booths were like thousands of dollars. But I did the research and discovered there was something called the Inventor's Corner. It was like a $500 table, literally in the dark corner of of a big convention center. I'm like, I can do $500, I think. And so we started there, and it was a great, everything is a great lesson. But this one, being my first trade show, taught me that you needed to protect your intellectual property. That means do anything to protect what you have, because there's going to be big companies that will walk by that already have established manufacturing that can say, oh, that's a cool idea, we can do this. And ideas get copied, and that is life. That is what happens, and it sucks when you discover that, but it happens. And yeah, it's a horrible sick feeling, but you got to not put your energy there, because just focus on being the best that you can be, and don't worry about the competition, right? And so
Protect and focus when you
yeah. Yeah.
so you did this trade show. Between all of this 1,500 stores from your table, the trade show, are you still teaching, or are you like pulled out and said, no, I'm done teaching? Like, where was the whole teaching aspect in all of this?
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, I was teaching for like the first year. I'm going to say maybe the first year and a bit of that transition. And I couldn't do them both anymore. I was already job sharing, so I was part-time teaching because I had 3 kids under 5 years old. And I was looking into manufacturing offshore, which meant I had meetings at 4 a.m. Because of time change, and having a newborn baby, and leaving at 6 something to get to my school that was like 3 cities away. And it was hard. And as much as you can multitask, you cannot drive and sleep at the same time. And I will be open and honest and say that happened several times to me.
No.
And, when I had 2 car accidents in 7 days, that was a huge indicator that I just could not do this anymore. And I had to figure it out, because I had to keep up with orders. And, when I'm packaging them, and I had 6 other moms that were stay-at-home moms that were helping me with packaging.
Yeah.
And it was something I had to figure out quick, which was I gonna do. And I know that the dragons, and I know I'm jumping around in stories,
Good.
they actually appreciated that I kept a day job while I was
Yeah.
figuring out this entrepreneurship. And they actually thought that was very smart to do, right? Because you do need, and I know that, Lou, you are the money guru, and it's very important to make sure you're still feeding the family and bringing money in when you are figuring out something else, right?
Yeah.
And then when you feel like the other one can launch and also feed you, then you can let go.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure it out so that you aren't in debt providing for something that is uncertain.
Yeah, exactly.
And And so, yes, so I had to make the choice then. And then it was so hard to let go of teaching because I loved it with a passion, and I still do. I'm really grateful that Easy Daisies is something that helps kids, because I think that's well, I know that's the passion that I have, is to help kids and families just have easier days and build stronger and happier families, right? Because it is about family. And so we went to this trade show, and it was there that I remember this one woman. She was the president of this company and for special needs products, and she came up to me and she's like, "Elaine," she goes, "can you make me 8,000 units for an order?" And and I and she looked at me and I looked at her, and I didn't say out loud, "Well, it took me 1 year to make 2,000 units off my table." So
Yeah.
I said, "Yes, I can, but it's going to take a while." And then she took my hand and she's like, "Honey, you need to get off your kitchen table." She was like, you need to go on that show called Dragon's Den."
Oh,
And I said to her, "Have you ever seen that show? Because it's not called The Nice People Show." And then she's like, "No," she's like, you need to go do it." And then another retailer suggested that. And then another retailer suggested that. Well, when we went home, I guess my husband was on the computer, and then he turned around and he said to me, "Hey, Elaine, Dragon's Den is here on Saturday." And we live in Vancouver, BC, which is across the country. And I said, "Well, I guess it's now or never." And it was a Thursday. I had like 2 days to prepare. And long story made much shorter, I thought it was going to be like American Idol, where you have to line up around the block. No, I was number 7. and, and when I showed up, we knew that well, I didn't know then, but we were auditioning to producers. And there was no one there at this building that worked for CBC. So people kept funneling in that were pitching and auditioning. And I went into school teacher mode. I found a scrap piece of paper on the floor and I ripped it out and gave out numbers. And everybody thought I worked for everybody,
in order. Oh my God.
everybody thought I worked for CBC. And I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm just number 7." And so it was crazy. I was so nervous. Like, I've never been so nervous. And my husband was with me, and my 7-year-old was with me. And I knew I had to nail it in the first 45 seconds.
Yep.
And I actually have a master class on how to pitch, how to create your perfect pitch. But and I remember I thought, okay, I got this. I just spent 4 days at a trade show pitching, pitching, pitching. And I had it in my head, I thought. And then there we were, it was our turn. Before we went in, they told everybody that they only will contact people back at the end of the 6 weeks nationwide audition if you are selected and invited to come to Toronto to pitch in front of the real dragons. And so we went in and I started talking, and then I didn't even get to say anything. Like 10 seconds in, I was bombarded with questions from the two different producers. And I thought at the end, I thought, "Oh, it was awful. It was
I didn't get
terrible."
to do my pitch. Like they just asked all these questions. Who are these people?
Yes.
Can you like it's almost like, can you stop asking questions so I can do
To
my
tell
pitch?
you, I know. And it was like question after question, like, "Aren't you too small to be on this show? Why would the Dragons want in? How much money did you sell last year?" Like all this, like blah 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 blah. And I left it thinking, "Oh, okay, well, I'm so glad I didn't tell anybody except for my in-laws that I was auditioning."
Yeah, yeah.
And but my husband reminded me, "Hey, you know what? You answered every single question." And if you are watching this and you are an entrepreneur, you need to remember, no one knows your business as well as you do. So don't let nerves or fear get in your way, because you believe in what you do and you know it better than anyone else. So go for it, right? Just
Yeah,
go for it.
exactly.
And there is no perfect time. Just go for it. And so, sure enough, 6 weeks later, we did get a phone call and we were invited out to Toronto.
Okay,
And
hold on. Stop, stop, stop.
uh-huh.
What was it like getting that phone call? Like, did you look at it and go 416 number? Oh, this is like, did you like I always see like a number I don't know and I'm like, do I want to answer this? Because usually it's like telemarketers and stuff. So when the phone was it a phone call that came in
It
or
was a phone call.
so
Mhm.
what was that like? Just briefly, like hearing whatever it was, like what was that moment like for you? Because you were like figured this wasn't going anywhere. right? Like,
Yeah, I thought I totally bonded and that was it. And it's like, okay, moving on.
when they called, what were you like? Like, what was that moment? Like,
Yeah, I remember I was upstairs in my bedroom and I probably had some ankle biter attached to my leg and I remember answering the call and I sat down on the bed as soon as uh, the producer said who she was.
yeah.
And she's like, congratulations, you're absolutely invited to come pitch on Dragon's Den in Toronto. And she's like, bring the kids. And I'm like, what? And and in disbelief, I'm like, really? I'm like, and you want me to bring the kids? I'm like, they're like 2.5, 4.5, and like 7.5 years old. And she laughed. She's like, oh, honey, she goes, it's not a boardroom, it's a TV show. She's like, the more the merrier. And then she was telling me that, it has to be TV worthy. And even if you get a deal on in the recording, it may not air if it's not interesting, right?
Right.
So she said, yeah, bring the kids. And she goes, we'll make it work and we'll bring a fridge and all this stuff and a kitchen table. I'm like, what? And it was crazy. And so we knew that it was time to book airplane tickets, and it was just insane. And we all, when we arrived, actually had bronchitis.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Oh wow.
Yes, except for my oldest, who was 7.5. And and I remember every time I practiced, I would be just hacking, coughing. It was horrible. And I brought my parents because we needed someone in the green room to take the kids, because I figured, okay, if they take out the kids, they can't just run wild
Yeah, yeah,
somewhere in Toronto.
yeah.
My children are set free and loose.
Excuse me,
Um,
sir, can you watch my children while I do your show? Right? No. Wow.
and so it was insane. And I remember when we arrived, my 2.5-year-old, she threw up all over the floor. And the crew stepped back, like I brought in a pooping elephant. And I just got down on my hands and knees, wiped it up and said, hey, it could only get better.
Yeah.
And it was super early. We recorded at 6:30 in the morning, which is 3:30 a.m. Vancouver time.
Yeah.
So if you watched the original pitch, I say original because we did 3 updates since that one, and it was a huge blessing that our pitch was named the top 5 most heartwarming pitches on the Den. And so that huge blessing has been many reruns, and the blessing there is we see the orders come through every time. It's like a great free commercial that I could not ever
Gosh.
even ask for, and it's just a great, I really appreciate it. And so we were told that when we got there, we'd have anywhere between 5 minutes and 45 minutes in front of the dragons. And we actually were there for 48 minutes in front of them, and it was crazy. And we incited a bidding war between all 5. Uh, and we did choose 2 of them to be our partners. And so that was Easy Daisies on episode, oh gosh, season 6, episode 3.
We're gonna put the link below. We're gonna somehow find
Yes.
it. And I mean, I'm sure you
I can send it to you.
send me the link and we'll put it below, because I do love watching that episode. And the fact that you like had Jim and Kevin, like, I know you, Elaine. Those are not so Jim, I can totally see you working with Jim, but the fact you picked Kevin over like the other Arlene, and I was just like, and I know since that you still have Jim as a partner, right?
Yes, and then we bought out Kevin O'Leary in 2017.
You
Yeah.
bought out Mr. Wonderful. Like, what? I'm sorry. That is just the coolest thing ever.
No, they're both incredible gentlemen, and I'm so honored and blessed to know them and have worked with them.
And I think that is a stepping stone. Like, a lot of people probably think that people go on these shows and you have these business partners for life. But if you can get to a point where you can buy them out, it means you've super succeeded and you've been this success that you want to, and you want to take it's your business, right? You take that ownership back eventually. I think that's amazing.
And they say that about less than, I want to say 3%, but less than 5% of deals that you see happen on air actually happen.
Yeah.
Because you go through due diligence, you can back out, they can back out and change their mind too. And so I appreciate Dragon's Den so much because it is, I think the best business crash course 101 that anyone could go through.
Yeah.
It makes you really want to know and understand your business.
And the interesting thing too is this part. So school teacher, creating them herself, right? Goes to the convention, 8,000 units, goes on Dragon's Den. Here we are. Elaine, where are you today? Are we still sitting at our kitchen table, gluing magnets?
I'm at a kitchen, or actually I'm at home right now, but no, we are manufacturing in Canada and in Hong Kong right now.
And you
Yep.
have a warehouse now that you ship from? Like, are you shipping
Yes.
18 units
So
still coming to the door, or what? Like, what's the? Where's
all great questions. So I've had quite a journey over, actually it'll be 10 years this October. And I have, if you see the original pitch on Dragon's Den, I said, I want to build this company up so that I could license it to a larger company. So we've done that twice now. And that has been a blessing and a huge learning curve for me, because I was a school teacher. Never was I pulled aside and taught how to be a manufacturer, distributor, warehouser, shipper,
marketer?
sales rep. Yeah. Account, it's insane. And so it has been a blessing to have had the licensing experience twice. And right now we are manufacturing, so I've taken it all back. And we have wonderful partners like Staples Canada, and since 2013. And I'm excited to share that we're just launching for back to school into London Drugs across 4 provinces this back to school. And that's a huge blessing. And just having great lifelong partners, that so many independent stores and local businesses that I love, and just cherish those relationships. Business is about people as much as people think it isn't. It is truly about building relationships. So huge blessing. And so not folding off our kitchen table.
Not fully off, but you're not. You don't have magnets all over your house. Your neighbors. I mean, I'm sure you've moved since, but your neighbors' pots and pans aren't sticking to the window.
No. No.
Now, the other thing too is if I just want to go back a little bit, because I think this is really important. Yes, you were a school teacher. Yes, you were a mom of 3 under 5. I think that's why you and I get along so well. Not that I was a school teacher, but I feel like we had some of the same journey when our kids were so little. But you also mentioned how you were running teacher 3 under 5, and then you were running this business, and you had some issues that came up in the fact that you were overloading yourself, that you did mention that you had 2 car accidents within 7 days because you were so tired, and you did overdo it. And I know a couple years ago your health took a turn, and you're very open about that, but not so much to focus on maybe what you went through, because for those listening, you can follow Elaine. You'll hear her. You can hear more of her story. I just know we have limited time here, but you're more than welcome to go into it, Elaine. But what the question I have is learning that you can't do it all. Like, you can do a lot and you can manage well, but you push the envelope. You had a stroke. You had a right? Is that what you had a stroke?
I had a stroke.
You not only at that were you running this company and the 3 kids who are growing up, but we all know you just because your kids grow up doesn't mean you're
No.
less,
And
right?
and I think I'm a serial entrepreneur.
So you're a
'Cause I-
serial entrepreneur, so you're writing a book, you're coaching women, you were part of an organization that helped female entrepreneurs at the time. Like, you were just
and the podcast was up and running
podcast
with
and a wife
sponsors. Mhm.
and but at some point, like, some people know when to slow down, but your body had to tell you to slow down. So
Absolutely.
I want to know a bit about that, what
Sure.
that was like, what changes you've made, and what advice you would give to someone who is trying to do it all and isn't listening to that
Right?
like, I want you to just go there for me. That would be
Oh,
amazing.
absolutely. And I think we all think we have a superhero cape, and that we are resilient in that way. But you know what? Our resiliency is our role modeling to our children. And so we cannot be dictated by those things, because we want to be able to choose to live a life by design and not by default.
Yeah.
And And, yes, I had a stroke 3 years ago. And, it could have been like anything, but the bottom line is because they discovered that that stroke wasn't my first stroke, and I've had multiple strokes. And because I wasn't old enough, I don't have high blood pressure, I blah, 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 blah. So, like, through many, many tests, like, I went from learning like shipping terminologies like FBO to CIF to PFO, which is patent formon ovale, which is a hole that I had in my heart that allowed blood clots to go straight to my brain. And so I did have that hole repaired and patched up. And I did have to go through 7 months of stroke rehab because I've lost the left side. But the lessons I learned, ladies and gentlemen, is you need to take care of you. You need to not think that you have to be a multitasking queen. So here's 3 things I learned really quickly. Okay. That first one is so that we can live a life by design and not by default, right? A life that you are happy with, that you plan, and not be just directed and shifted around and pulled here and there, because easily we can be people pleasers. Easily we can be led by mom guilt or any type of guilt, or we feel like, there's a comparison model that we're supposed to be like the Joneses. Just forget all that. And so if you are making choices today, here are 3 things that I have learned that I consider now when I'm making choices. And it does begin with the small choices we make every day to help us to do the right thing so that we can be there for our kids, right? And I know that everybody has heard this over and over, right? Like even the airplane tells you when you're on a flight, like, parents, put the mask on first so that you can help and put the mask on your child beside you. Because if you're serving everybody else and you're going to pass out because you're not breathing, then you're not going to be able to help anybody. So help yourself. Like, you'll see on social media the over glorification of multitasking. You'll see memes of people juggling the diaper bag, the laptop, and the briefcases. It's okay. So number one is, I'm going to say, as I blank out right now.
Sounds
I
like
might not say them in order, but I have it in my head. But that first one I'm going to say is learn to master the art of single tasking. And
mm,
what I mean by that is forget the rest. Like, just focus on doing one thing really well. I'm not saying you have to single task all the time, but just when it matters most. Because when you can, yeah,
right? Like,
when you can master single tasking, you are going to increase the growth, the impact, the the connection that you have with that person, that family member, that client, that business that you're working with and on. And your staff will notice, your family will notice, because you know what? Our family and our kids, they don't remember the multitasking moments we have in our life, but
yeah,
they will remember our single tasking moments with them. And that second one is, if you're debating, should I do this or should I not? Does it create more joy? Ask yourself, does it create more joy? And I'm not talking about creating more joy for other people. Then you're just people pleasing. I'm talking about, does it create joy for you? Does it create joy for you to bake 18 dozen muffins for that church bake sale? If it does, then go for it. Do it. Power on you. But if it doesn't, and you're like, but everybody else is doing it, I should do it. No, if it doesn't and it doesn't work for you right then, please don't do it,
yeah,
because you're going to resent it and you're going to be upset about it. You might begrudge it, and you don't want to do any act of kindness with grudge, right? Or resentment.
yeah,
And so, does it create more joy for you? And that does not sound selfish. You need to take care of you. And that third one is put your time and energy where your heart is.
mm,
And that means in choosing your partners that you work with as well.
yeah,
Do you have the same core values? Do they disregard family and health? Like, and I have so many stories, but we won't go into those. But so put your time and energy where your heart is.
yeah,
That means sometimes you have to make a choice. Can I make that meeting, or am I supposed to go to my son's concert?
yeah,
Right? Which one is life meaning to you and your family?
yeah,
Choose wisely, because life is short. You don't get those redos. They don't get to be in grade one again. At least you hope they are in grade one again. But I'm saying choose wisely. And so those are the lessons I have learned. And I hope people are listening to that, that it's okay to say no. It
Yeah.
is absolutely okay to not work with every single opportunity that presents in front of you.
Yeah. Because you know what? Not everybody is for you.
No, gosh.
Right? Like, if you say yes, this is what I always say, if you say yes to one thing, it does mean you're saying no to something else. So if you're saying yes to work with this partner, you may be saying no to the partner you truly, truly want in your business,
Mhm.
or the customer that you want. So I love that. And as Elaine, as we wrap up, I have a question. If
Yes.
you could go back to yourself 10 years ago, so like 2011, we'll go 10 years ago, what
Mhm.
would you tell her today?
Do not be afraid to jump. Do
Mm,
not be afraid to walk through, um, like, that dark unknown, because that dark unknown is our fear, our self-talk of, "I can't do it. I don't even know what I'm doing." And that is the beauty, the definition that I've seen of being an entrepreneur, right? It's that person who jumps off the cliff and then builds the airplane on the way down.
yeah.
Like, we have no idea. And that is what is beautiful, and exciting about taking a challenge. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. Just go for it. And there's no perfect time, but go for it. And, and along that journey, do not feel like you have to do it alone. There's other people around you. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to find a mentor. Do not be afraid. Just go for it. Hmm.
And then one last question. If you were able to have a time machine and go back to the day you decided, I think we have something here. I think we should make this a business. Would you still have said yes? Would you have still, I'm not saying do things differently. I don't, that's not what I mean. Like, but would you relive the journey you have been on with your business?
So I'm going to say, yes, I definitely would have done it. And yes, I would have done things differently. I would have not been, for lack of better words, too proud to ask for help.
Mm,
And I think that my journey could have been faster and shorter and less expensive mistakes along the way. And I say expensive mistakes because I don't want to say less mistakes, because mistakes are great.
yeah.
And and don't be scared to make mistakes. And when you have them, you just be grateful for it and say, what can I learn from this, so that I don't repeat it and I can help somebody else
Don't
out.
you think the mistakes are far outweigh the successes in
Yes, I don't think you can have success without mistakes,
I agree.
right? So, yeah.
My gosh, I love you so much. I miss you like crazy. We're gonna have to jump onto the phone this summer and just hang out. And I just so inspiring when I'm around you. And friends, the Elaine you're hearing, like this is her heart. The one thing I've heard from so many female entrepreneurs that we're associated with is like, Elaine has the biggest heart. Elaine had like, she just loves people. Elaine started a cookie exchange, which eventually came to Ontario because we all did Elaine's cookie exchange. Like, she literally is like multiplied herself through actions of love and kindness and gratitude. And Elaine, I'm just so excited for my community to connect with you, to follow you, to buy your stuff, which I'm going out this weekend and grabbing one from my 3-year-old great nephew uh,
Oh,
that for his birthday this weekend. So I'm so
oh,
happy we can
thank
get those
you.
at Staples. We can get them online with you. Your new book, your
A
book,
scholar's choice also, because I think that's,
Cousin
yeah.
Perfect. And your book is available on Amazon. So we're going to put all those links below.
Thank you.
Elaine, thank you so much for taking this time. I know you're a very busy person, and I'm just so happy you invested some time into us. So I love you. Thank you.
Lou, thank you, honey. Thank you for doing what you do, right? And kudos to you, and for always sharing your heart and your wisdom with everyone, and your beautiful heart. So thank you, Lou. Thank you for having me.
You're
Thank
so
you, guys.
welcome. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yes. Bye for now, everybody. Thank you.